Hello everyone! Today we're going to be talking about Twitter and why we really don't need a Twitter. So we have occasionally talked about Twitter on this channel. A lot of the drama that I cover tends to happen on Twitter. A lot of the cancellation tends to happen on Twitter. A lot of negative news in general tends to happen on Twitter. And I've briefly mentioned before how studies show that most of the people tweeting on Twitter are typically social media addicts who tweet very, very much, as described through Appa Ben's video. And this is the main reason why Twitter does not give you a good sense of what is actually popular or what the world is actually like, because it's this very small population who has the large control of Twitter and what kind of content gets popular on Twitter. Furthermore, Twitter has control of what gets pushed on Twitter and what gets censored on Twitter. And because of that, they do a lot of meddling with what information you're able to get on Twitter. And if you saw the Senate hearing, you would see that the CEO really didn't make himself look good. But it's also because there's so much negative false information on Twitter that a lot of people will leave Twitter. I believe I did a whole video on when PewDiePie left Twitter, and there seems to be this trend of people leaving Twitter and finding themselves more happier and more relaxed because they don't have all this negative false information that gets pushed and spewed on Twitter so carelessly. People always joke about how Twitter is trash, but what they really mean is Twitter is a very trashy place to be. Design-wise, it's fine, it's easy to use, but there's a lot of negative vibes on there, so a lot of people might find themselves happier if they just lay off of it. Now, on this channel, we might have briefly talked about how video games don't cause violence, or how seeing a pretty woman won't cause you to be sexist, because we understand to some extent how much influence everything has around us. There's a difference between subjective art and objective propaganda. For example, this is art. This is not sharing any message to you. This is not trying to change your mind about anything. Whatever you draw from this picture or from these characters is completely subjective based on your own viewing of the art piece. However, this is propaganda. This is specifically trying to get a message across. It's trying to get people to change their mind about interference in World War II. And to be clear, not all propaganda is inherently bad, but the goal is to sway someone's opinion, and the creator, more likely than not, is willing to misinform the audience in order to sway their opinion. Now, given false information can affect how you see life, how you behave, and whether or not you're happy or unhappy. People who control information that we know can, to a certain degree, control us. And I see it all the time where people hear something in a movie and they think that it's legit. They think that the person who wrote the movie did their research and found this out and then put the information in the movie. But no, it's just them using their imagination. And regardless, that person will go on believing that what they heard in this movie was real because to them, it seemed like new information. Let's just say, for example, when you're a kid and you watch those cartoons where the characters are jumping on the clouds and the clouds are nice and poofy and bouncy. As a kid, you think that clouds are actually like that. You think that you can actually jump on a cloud. But then as you're growing up, you're given new information that no, you can't actually jump on the cloud, you'll just fall straight through. And it's a lot easier to take in that new information as a kid, because as a kid, you're always learning new things. So it's not that big of a deal when you're wrong about something. As an adult, you're not so willing to believe that something that you've known all your life is wrong all of a sudden. And furthermore, you don't want to feel like a child. You don't want to feel like you're uninformed. So you'll be a lot more stubborn about it. Because of this, a lot of adults who are given new information will refuse to believe it just because they don't want to be wrong. I believe it's called being a stubborn asshole. For some people it's temporary, for some people it lasts forever. But now let's imagine that all communication is done through this platform. And let's say you're growing up to believe that you can in fact jump on clouds, and the person who wants to correct you by saying, no, you can't actually do that, is being censored by the platform. So you never actually get that information. The way we combat false information is through correct information. If we lose our ability to give correct information because this big business doesn't want people to know the truth, that can be a problem going forward. Now, a lot of you already know that Twitter has censored news stories while also promoting news stories. They always promote it on like the sidebar over here. They have an entire section called Twitter News where they have specific news stories that they promote. And of course, in case you didn't notice, I blocked this on my sidebar using the ad block. But I think ad block has some kind of deal they have going on with some of these websites because it'll come back eventually. I don't know, maybe I need a different ad blocker. But now keep in mind that this is not the only case in which Twitter is able to promote their stuff. Twitter will also promote things in your feed, and not just advertisements, which of course will show up in your feed. That's how Twitter makes their money. But Twitter actually has an algorithm based on who you're already following to suggest other people to you. So every now and then, somebody who I'm following will like a post of somebody else, and I'll see that person's post. And it'll say, you know, so-and-so liked this, and it'll show up in my feed despite me not actually following that person. And of course, every now and then, you'll get those because you follow these people, they'll suggest other people for you. But for whatever reason, I've seen it a lot more commonly on the phone, where Twitter will just have all these posts in your feed of people that you're not following because they're trying to promote more people for you to follow based on Twitter's algorithm of what they think you'll like or what they want you to like. A lot of people who are on Twitter actually don't even use it, and a lot of people during this year have actually left Twitter. Twitter's stock has dropped. Now, I don't by any means think that the idea of Twitter is bad. I don't think it's a bad thing to have a social media that you post to every day. I think that's actually a good way to promote yourself or promote your brand, and that's why a lot of companies have Twitter accounts. That's why a lot of politicians have Twitter accounts. But Twitter is not unbiased, and it is definitely a swamp of negativity and false information and censored information that you'll never really see. And it gives you this false perception of what the world is actually like and what is actually popular. A lot of people think that what's popular on Twitter will be popular when they get off Twitter, and it's not really like that all the time. So it's very deceptive in that way. Now, some might ask, well, DanFan, if you dislike Twitter, why are you on there? There are alternatives to Twitter that are not by any means bad. I also have a Minds account, and I don't think Minds is bad. I think that this is probably one of the best alternatives to Twitter out there that I've seen so far because it's pretty easy to use, easy to post. The main problem with Minds is the messaging system is garbage. You see, Twitter has this edge because I'm all about comics, animation, you know, all about the artistic world of social media. So it's very easy for me to find artists on Twitter and message them, and being able to like work out some kind of collaboration or commissions. It is not nearly as easy to do that on Minds because this messaging system is trash. Now, of course, the design of Minds needs multiple updates, and theoretically, it could get better in the long run. And then there's Parler, which is okay, but somehow they managed to get a worse Twitter crop than actual Twitter. And they have this weird slideshow mechanic for if you want to add multiple pictures in one post, and it's just bad. It's just not quite there yet. But also, I can't actually DM anyone because I'm not a verified user, whatever the heck that means. But for now, Twitter definitely has the edge for that part of social media where artists want to be able to get into contact with each other easier. Some people might ask, oh, why don't you just use Instagram? Instagram is kind of trashy too. And I mean, I actually do mean that design-wise rather than user-wise. I guess some users are trashy as well, but design-wise, Instagram only wants you to post on your phone, which is irritating. Furthermore, the messaging system, they finally opened up the messaging system for Instagram on the desktop, which is awesome. awesome, right? But you never get notifications for when somebody who you're not following messages you. Basically, people who follow each other, they'll get notifications. People who are trying to reach out to artists for like collaborating, they're not gonna get your message, or they're not gonna see it. But disregarding Instagram, I don't think that the world will end or social media will end if Twitter is gone. I don't think anything that bad will be lost if Twitter is gone. I think that there are better places to go, and maybe we should be looking towards those better places. You know, it's fun to make fun of Twitter, it's fun to complain about it, but it's also fun to see actual change being done. Oh, and I guess I should mention YouTube, because YouTube is not free from the censorship or biased either. Neither is Facebook, of course. It's basically the big three that are the most guilty out of all social media. YouTube does not have any good alternatives right now. I've yet to find it. People say BitChute, I'm on BitChute. It's a pain in the ass. I love how people advertise it like, oh yeah, you can just hook up, you can just link your YouTube and BitChute account and it'll automatically No, it won't. It doesn't work. It's broken. It doesn't automatically upload your videos. You have to upload them manually, and it crashes when you try to upload two. Oh my gosh, it's crashed so many times as I'm uploading videos to the point where I just don't want to do it anymore. But anyway, what do you think about the whole thing? Any and all thoughts you have, leave them down in the comments section below. Remember to like the video and subscribe if you'd like to see more videos from me. I'll be here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye! Program restart.